Have you ever felt helpless even with incessant prayer? Perhaps you've spent sleepless nights repeating mantras and supplications, yet that emptiness persists like an echo of loneliness in your heart. Amidst this anguish, the idea of Mary's invisible embrace emerges, a gentle, welcoming presence that transcends the limits of the tangible to envelop our souls in hope. Stay with me until the end, because what you'll discover now may surprise you. We're about to unveil the 7 revealed messages of Medjugorje that reveal the transformative power of this spiritual embrace. Imagine feeling an almost physical comfort. Even without seeing the figure of Mary, it's as if a gentle breeze touches your heart in your darkest hours. The spirituality of this micro-theme pulsates in every word of the visionaries, carrying prophecies and mysteries that never made the headlines, but which have the power to heal emotional wounds and rekindle faith. Have you ever experienced this? The promise of peace in the midst of the storm is not just an empty metaphor, but a real and still, little understood invitation to commune with the Mother of God. Throughout this video, we'll explore messages that speak of inner healing, profound conversion, and unwavering strength in times of tribulation. Each one sparks curiosity. Why were these words hidden for so long? How can prayer and fasting become a spiritual shield? And how does fraternal solidarity transform into a living network of love that reflects Mary's invisible embrace? Stay with me, as each answer will be grounded in the authority of the apparitions and the experience of those who have felt this presence in the midst of despair. You'll discover how these revelations can be applied today. In your prayer routine, the moment a simple gesture of surrender changes the soul's perspective. The immediate connection between the mystery of Medjugorje and your practical life is surprising. These aren't just stories of visionaries, but a manual of hope for those who feel forgotten. And if you've ever experienced that tightness in your chest that seems to never end, prepare to find profound comfort that goes beyond words. Now, let's delve into the first of the 7 unrevealed messages and understand how each of them constitutes a key to feeling, even in pain. Mary's invisible embrace. If this invisible embrace has already begun to resonate in your heart, share in the comments what has touched you most so far. That unexpected feeling of peace, the flame of hope that has reignited within you, or perhaps a personal memory that resonated with these words. When you leave your experience below, it's not just a comment on the video. It's a living message that strengthens our community and helps other souls thirsting for solace find this little corner of faith. And if you believe more people need to discover this mystery, leave your like to promote this content, because each heart reached is a seed of light planted in the world. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and activate the bell, so you ensure you don't miss our complete series on the 7 unrevealed messages of Medjugorje. Together, we can grow in hope and spread this maternal embrace wherever it's needed. Now, without missing a beat on this journey, let's move forward and unveil the first message. From the moment the first light of dawn broke over the Medjugorje Valley on June 24, 1981, a phenomenon of faith began to shape contemporary spirituality. In the shadow of Mount Podbrdo, 6 young people, Ivan, Mirjana Jakov, Marija, and Ivanka, began to witness apparitions of the Virgin Mary, who presented herself as the Queen of Peace. These were not just isolated visions. Dozens, then hundreds, and today thousands of people report sensations of inner warmth, glimpses of light, and even inexplicable sense, as a sign of a calling that transcends cultural or religious barriers. To understand the relevance of these experiences, we must consider the unique role of the visionaries. They didn't seek the spotlight or schedule interviews. They were simple young people from humble families, whose everyday lives became the setting for something extraordinary. Their feelings ranged from uncontrollable tears to profound joy, but they all shared the same message: prayer, prayer, prayer. This insistence, though seemingly straightforward, hid previously unseen nuances, coded revelations that are only now beginning to be understood more clearly. The gradual recognition of the Catholic Church, which has always been cautious about apparitions, brought credibility to the phenomenon. First, at the diocesan level, with theological and psychological studies. Then, in 1991, the then Bishop of Mosterdovno Pavozanik declared that there were supernatural elements worthy of consideration in the reports. In 2018, Pope Francis officially approved prayers and pilgrimages to Medjugorje, consolidating a shrine that today attracts thousands of pilgrims every year. This institutional validation serves as a foundation for those seeking to understand not only the what of these apparitions, but also their why, in our age of restlessness. But, you might ask, what distinguishes the 7 unrevealed messages of Medjugorje from everything else that has been revealed? While public statements have focused on generic invitations to conversion, peace, and prayer, these hidden messages reveal deeper facets: guidance for dealing with emotional crises, instructions on how to build a mindset of unshakable trust, and warnings about spiritual challenges yet to come. These are revelations that have the potential to transform our inner journey, without diminishing the mystery that surrounds each encounter with the divine. When we speak of authority, we are not referring solely to ecclesiastical approval, but to the lived experience of thousands who report special graces, emotional healings, family reconciliations, and sensations of inexplicable warmth in their hearts during silent prayer. These testimonies emerge from behind the scenes of retreats and prayer gatherings, where Mary's invisible embrace manifests itself as a gentle breath that has redefined the understanding of spiritual consolation. Understanding this context is essential to grasping the power and credibility of these messages. This is not a simple account of extraordinary events, but a call to personal and community transformation, a hidden truth that emerges little by little, like dawn after the darkest night. And it is precisely in this confluence of institution and inner experience that we find the fertile ground for the 7 unrevealed messages. Now I want to go even deeper into this subject. Comment, this makes sense to me now. I want to delve even deeper into this topic and talk about what I call Mary's invisible embrace. This metaphor that carries a hidden truth capable of transforming our way of living and making decisions. Think of a moment in your life when you felt a tightness in your chest, an anguish that even words can't describe, whether faced with loss, uncertainty, or that internal conflict that paralyzes us. It's in that moment that, even without realizing it, we can perceive the subtlety of this embrace. It's not a physical touch, but an internal impact that warms the heart and offers a welcoming space where before there was only emptiness. Imagine being alone in a dark room, each thought swirling like a whirlwind of doubts, and suddenly a gentle breeze invades your mind, bringing immediate comfort as if someone had lit a candle within you. This is the power of spirituality embodied in the figure of Mary, an invitation to profound transformation, to the renewal of our mindset, and to the remembrance that we never walk alone, even when the journey takes us through valleys of shadow. The surprise lies in recognizing that this embrace does not depend on our merits or the weight of our mistakes, but springs from an unconditional love that defies all human logic. Behind the scenes of this experience, the apparitions of Medjugorje offer us revelations that go beyond simple prayer advice. They are instructions disguised as maternal affection, guidance for each person to take responsibility for their own conversion, while receiving invisible support to face emotional and spiritual crises. Listening to the 7 unrevealed messages, we perceive a striking coherence. Each word, each request for prayer and fasting is like a point of light that illuminates an aspect of the soul, enabling wiser decisions, choices aligned with a greater purpose, and a vision of hope that overcomes adversity. This invisible embrace also reminds us that in the community of believers, solidarity manifests itself in concrete ways. When a pilgrim returns from Medjugorje and shares their testimony, there is a ripple effect of inspiration that reaches thousands of people around the world. It is living proof that Mary's presence, even invisible, moves hearts and activates a dynamic of fraternal care. It is the idea that, even isolated in our homes, we can feel this shared affection, this transcendental connection that strengthens our faith and impels us to act, to reach out to others, to build bridges of compassion. And most fascinatingly, this embrace isn't fleeting. It's a continuous contact, a trail of subtle signals and unexpected scent in the air, an intuition that saves a decision, a breath of courage when we think about giving up. Each of these experiences produces a small tremor in the soil of our soul, causing a silent impact that, little by little, builds a journey of true healing. It's not just momentary comfort, it's a gradual reshaping of our beliefs, a secret conversation between the human heart and the maternal heart of Mary. When we allow ourselves to delve into this metaphor, we understand that the invisible embrace is also a call to be co-authors of this story of redemption. Every act of prayer, every gesture of kindness, every decision guided by faith expands the reach of this spiritual embrace. It's like turning on a light that never goes out, even when we face emotional storms. And, by recognizing this invisible bond, we realize that our mindset undergoes a silent revolution. We stop seeing insurmountable obstacles and begin to see challenges as opportunities for growth and inner transformation. Perhaps you still have doubts about how to identify this embrace without seeing it with your physical eyes. The key lies in tuning into your own intuition and cultivating moments of inner silence. By silencing the noise of worries, we open space to perceive the subtle movement of the Spirit, inviting us to trust in something greater than our deepest fears. And as this trust takes hold, we notice surprising revelations, insights that guide us through the most complex decisions. A breath of fresh air to carry on when hope seems about to fade. This process of discovery is, above all, proof of how the unrevealed messages of Medjugorje are not just ancient words, but living instructions, capable of generating a real impact on our personal transformation. With each step, each silent prayer, each gesture of love toward others, we reinforce this invisible embrace that never abandons us. It is a spiritual partnership that invites us to keep our gaze focused on the truth hidden beneath the surface of the ordinary, remembering that in the most difficult decisions, there is a presence that sustains us and propels us beyond the limits of suffering. Now I want to go even deeper into this subject. Comment: this makes sense to me now. I want to delve even deeper into this topic. Starting with the first unpublished revelation of Medjugorje, inner healing. Imagine for a moment that all those emotional wound traumas kept silent. Hurts that seem impossible to forgive, emotional scars that tighten the heart, could in fact find a balm capable of transforming them into hope. This is the hidden truth that Mary whispers to each of us when she invites us to fully surrender our pain. It is not a vague promise, but a process of real transformation, where the Mother of God herself becomes a bridge between human frailty and the divine power of renewal. When the Medjugorje visionaries heard this message, many encountered an inner strength so palpable it couldn't be put into words. Vika reported a feeling of warmth in her chest, as if every cell was crying out for relief, while Marian felt tears of repentance flow uncontrollably, washing away years of pent-up suffering. These accounts, which remained behind the scenes of major public speeches, reveal the profound impact that inner healing can have. It's not just momentary comfort, but the beginning of a journey of self-discovery and reconciliation. When we talk about mindset, we realize that inner healing invites a radical shift in how we view our own emotions. Decisions that were once dictated by fear are now guided by the renewed confidence of those who feel Mary's invisible embrace. It's not about ignoring difficulties, but about seeing them with new eyes, less as insurmountable obstacles and more as opportunities for growth. This shift in our approach to life is a powerful revelation, capable of influencing our daily choices and determining the tone of every step we take. In the silent corridors of the human heart, the wound that brings the most pain is often that of abandonment, that feeling that we are alone in the face of the toughest battles. However, the healing Mary offers is not limited to alleviating suffering. It replaces abandonment with a constant presence, an invisible affection that sustains every tear. It is as if, by accepting this surrender, our journey ceases to be a solitary one and becomes a shared one, illuminated by a spiritual companionship that strengthens us in adversity. The revelations of this first invitation to inner healing also challenge us to rethink how we conduct our relationships. When we receive divine mercy, we are led to extend the same compassion to those around us. This dynamic creates a virtuous cycle. As our souls are relieved, we become agents of healing in the environment in which we live, spreading kindness, understanding, and mutual support. It's a transformation that reverberates beyond the individual, affecting families, communities, and, ultimately, the entire social fabric. It's important to emphasize that this inner healing isn't instantaneous or without challenges. It requires the courage to look within, the willingness to abandon old certainties, and the humility to let go of the masks we wear to protect our vulnerability. Mary, in calling each of us to this surrender, doesn't promise a painless path, but rather assures us that, even in the midst of the emotional storm, there will be a refuge where we can find relief and clarity. This promise brings a sense of balance. We are called to face our wounds, but also assured that we do not walk alone. Behind this message of healing lies an invitation to the hidden truth, the recognition that, often, the greatest prisons we build are invisible to others, prisons of guilt, fear, and rejection. Inner healing frees us from these shackles, opening the way for a renewed mindset, where difficult decisions can be made from a place of serenity and confidence. This internal movement is reflected externally in the way we handle conflict, take responsibility, and embrace our purpose. But we then see that the inner healing proposed by Mary is not just a personal appeal, but a spiritual strategy with a collective impact. By transforming ourselves, we inspire others to open themselves to the process of renewal, creating a multiplier effect that echoes beyond the walls of Medjugorje. It is the power of the invisible shelter that circulates from heart to heart, generating a silent revolution of love and compassion. And, in the midst of this movement, each testimony becomes a living framework of revelations, where divine grace finds fertile soil to flourish. This healing is, therefore, an invitation to a journey of interiority, where the sacred manifests itself at the crossroads of our most intimate emotions. It is not a method, but an encounter in intimate dialogue that transcends ritual and touches the core of human existence. It is in this dialogue that we understand that our wounds are not mere accidents of life, but portals to a profound transformation, capable of redefining our personal and collective history. Now I want to go even deeper into this subject. Comment: I'm on this journey to now. I want to delve even deeper into this subject and bring to light the second unrevealed message of Medjugorje, the peace in the heart that surpasses all understanding. Even when we are shaken by storms of pain and uncertainty, think of a particularly turbulent day in your life, when the clouds seemed to weigh directly on your chest and every thought was a whirlwind of worries. It was precisely in this scenario that Mary, in her maternal wisdom, offered an invisible refuge, a peace so profound that it cannot be explained simply in words, but manifests itself as a clearing of serenity in the midst of the storm. This is not a superficial peace, but a real transformation of our mindset, a paradigm shift that makes it possible to make decisions guided not by fear, but by the unshakable trust of those who know they are supported by divine love. When heard this gentle voice, they often reported feeling an inner silence so complete that all voices of despair suddenly fell silent, as if every anguish lost its strength upon contact with a welcoming presence. It's difficult to grasp the exact meaning of this silence behind the scenes of a hurried life. But the revelations that emerge from these experiences teach us that true peace doesn't depend on external circumstances. Even when we lose something precious, when our health falters, or our dreams crumble, this invisible embrace offers us a clearing of calm where we can take a deep breath, readjust our perspective, and discover solutions previously unthinkable. There is a hidden truth in this message of peace. It does not deny the reality of suffering, but recontextualizes it as part of a larger journey. Instead of viewing pain as an enemy to be eradicated at any cost, we learn to see it as a school of maturation, a portal to inner revelations that only emerge when we allow ourselves to be enveloped by this subtle affection. Each time we allow ourselves to quiet our hearts and embrace this peace, we build fertile inner ground for attitudes of compassion, resilience, and courage to blossom. It is as if, in the stillness of the soul, a silent metamorphosis occurs. Fear loses its rigid armor, and a foundation emerges capable of sustaining our convictions even in the face of the strongest headwinds. In the eyes of the world, action and reaction are two sides of the same coin. If something bad happens, we are led to react with defense or flight. However, the peace Mary offers breaks this vicious cycle and introduces a new way of acting, an inner attitude that, even in the midst of crisis, maintains the clarity necessary to discern the best path. This change in attitude impacts not only ourselves but also those around us. Imagine leaders who, guided by this principle, make decisions not only based on immediate goals but on values of love and solidarity. Think of families who, even experiencing conflict, find the strength to communicate with respect and empathy. This is the silent revolution that begins in each person's heart and spreads throughout the community. As we reflect on this movement, we realize that peace of heart is a side effect of a decision, the conscious choice to surrender our concerns to something greater, to make room for an eternal breath that renews our courage. The spirituality behind this message is not a set of empty rituals, but a living practice of interiority. Each moment of meditation, each silent prayer, each gesture of gratitude enhances this impact, making it more lasting and transformative. And, at the heart of this process, we discovered that we are not passive spectators, but co-authors of our own healing journey. Behind the scenes of this experience, the stories tell of small epiphanies. A patient who, by accepting that peace, regained the strength to face a risky surgery. A worker who, amid financial chaos, found clarity to reinvent his career. These testimonies remind us that the message of peace is not a fairy tale, but a real power, capable of altering the course of lives and breaking patterns of anxiety that imprison our minds. It is an invitation to radically transform the way we relate to the imponderable, replacing panic with trust in an invisible affection that never fades. And as we allow ourselves to experience this peace, we notice a shift in the way we prioritize. Things that once seemed urgent lose their dramatic tone, and the essential caring for our soul, cultivating healthy relationships, and seeking deeper meaning comes to the fore. This shift in values reflects a spiritual maturity that transcends fads and open space for a mindset focused on what truly matters. It is the harmony between action and contemplation, between doing and being, that aligns us with a greater purpose. When we observe the impact of this peace on the lives of those who receive it, we discover that it is a silent engine of everyday miracles. These are not spectacular phenomena, but small transformations: a kinder look, a calming word, a comforting presence. Little by little, we build a reality where every gesture, no matter how simple, bears the seal of a soul reconnected with its own essence. And this culture of inner peace spreads virally, creating more human communities, where acceptance ceases to be a distant promise and becomes a natural attribute of relationships. Understanding this dimension is essential to understanding why Medjugorje's message still remains obscured. If the peace Mary brings has the power to disarm prejudices, dissolve barriers, and promote reconciliation, imagine the impact this can have on societies marked by conflict. Perhaps it is this transformative force that remains guarded to be revealed at the right moment when hearts are ready to receive it without resistance. But for this to happen, we must first internalize this peace, allow it to penetrate every corner of our existence, and then radiate it to the four winds. Now I want to go even deeper into this subject. Comment: this makes sense to me now. I want to delve even deeper into this topic and talk about the third unrevealed message of Medjugorje, profound conversion. This hidden invitation to a radical life change that places God at the center of all decisions. Think about your daily routine. How often do you wake up already carrying the weight of other people's expectations, of projects that don't reflect your true aspirations, of commitments that hinder your happiness? Mary, in her maternal mercy, suggests a path of transformation that isn't limited to small adjustments in attitude, but rather a complete reordering of your mindset, your priorities, and your existential purpose. This hidden truth is not generic self-help advice, but a revelation that emerged in the silence behind the scenes of the apparitions, engraved in the hearts of the visionaries like an urgent call. Jacob even said he felt his entire world crumble when he realized that, to embrace this conversion, he needed to leave behind comfortable beliefs and safe routines, even if they were meaningless. It was like dismantling a shaky house piece by piece to build a new foundation based on living faith, where every decision is motivated by a love that surpasses any logic of profit or prestige. When we speak of a journey of conversion, we are talking about an ongoing movement, not a single event. It's like a seed that, in order to germinate, needs to be buried in the dark soil of introspection and watered with the courage to face truths we often prefer to hide. This inner flame, lit by Mary's invisible embrace, drives us to make bold choices, abandoning toxic bonds, revising habits that corrode the soul, dedicating time to prayer and discernment instead of unbridled consumption. It's a shift in mindset that alters the quality of our decisions and the impact we leave on the world. Than the testimonies gathered during prayer retreats. We find accounts of people who, after accepting this calling, exchanged promising careers for volunteer work, reshaped relationships marked by conflict, and discovered dormant vocations. These stories reveal that profound conversion does not translate into gratuitous suffering, but rather into a realignment of life with a greater mission, to be a living witness to divine compassion in every gesture, word, and project. And, as this process progresses, we notice a practical effect. We begin to make decisions with less anxiety, driven by an inner clarity born of a daily encounter with the divine. This choice has a revolutionary impact. When God is at the center, all the other parts of the personal machine take on new meaning. Work ceases to be a mere means of support and becomes an opportunity to serve. Relationships transform into spaces for mutual healing, and challenges become invitations to growth. This worldview redefines our values, replacing immediacy with a perspective of eternity, where every act, no matter how small, carries the potential to bear lasting fruit in our own lives and in the lives of those around us. At the heart of this message is the idea that conversion is not a restriction of freedom, but an expansion of horizons. As in a process of metamorphosis, we leave behind cocoons of fear, pride, and self-sufficiency, to emerge as more integrated beings, with a renewed mindset and a heart willing to follow revealed truth. This intimate transformation, though invisible to the eyes of the world, produces visible effects behind the scenes in our relationships: greater patience in conflicts, more empathy in decision-making, and more courage to dream of projects that reflect spiritual values. And it is precisely at this point that the power of this invitation manifests itself as a powerful testimony. When we place God at the center, we abandon the utilitarian logic that prevails in so many areas of modern life, replacing it with the logic of service and gratuitous love. It is a choice that requires discipline, but also generates lightness, as it detaches us from external pressures and anchors us in an inexhaustible source of inner motivation. The collective impact of this transformation is profound, as radically converted people inspire others to seek the same reconnection with the divine essence. Now, I want to go even deeper into this subject. Comment: I'm on this journey too now. I want to delve even deeper into this topic and explore the fourth unrevealed message of Medjugorje: fortitude in tribulation. That invisible power that sustains our courage even when we feel about to succumb to life's storms. Imagine yourself in the midst of an unexpected crisis, perhaps a profound disappointment, an irreparable loss, or that moment when every horizon seems shrouded in thick clouds of hopelessness. It is precisely in this vacuum of uncertainty that Mary, as a compassionate mother, extends her invisible embrace, providing not just fleeting solace, but an intrinsic strength that transforms our approach to challenges and shapes our mindset to endure and persevere. Behind the scenes of these experiences, we find moving accounts of people who, unsure of where to turn, discovered that within themselves lay a foundation more solid than their own human strength. One psychic even confided that, while struggling between doubt and fear, she felt a strange warmth in her heart, followed by a sudden clarity. You are not alone. That simple revelation wrought a silent revolution in her mind, from insecurity to determination, from fragility to resilience. It is a clear demonstration that true strength is not built solely on emotional muscle, but on the profound conviction that we are sustained by a love that never fails. When we speak of transformation, this message resonates as a call to redefine the concept of victory. Instead of measuring our success by the absence of problems, we learn that the greatest victory lies in remaining standing, even when everything around us threatens to bring us down. Every decision we make in the midst of crisis takes on new meaning, no longer a retreat from danger, but a conscious step towards spiritual maturity. This shift in perspective significantly impacts our journey. For where there was once paralysis, in the face of chaos, there is now courage to act. Motivated by a faith, fueled by Mary's invisible embrace, in the silent corridors of the wounded heart, surprising revelations emerge about what it truly means to be strong. It's not just the ability to endure, but the ability to embrace vulnerability and yet transform each tear into a source of learning. It's an invitation to abandon the mindset of self-sufficiency and cultivate a confident dependence on the one who is present even in the deepest shadows. Fortitude then ceases to be cold armor and becomes a living foundation of hope, intertwined with maternal compassion that sustains us without changing the essence of who we are. Listening to the pilgrims' stories behind the scenes of the celebrations, we see how this message is embodied in concrete actions. People facing incurable illnesses, financial crises, or family breakdowns report that by surrendering to the trust suggested by Mary, they found unexpected solutions. A bankrupt businessman, on the verge of giving up everything, reported feeling renewed courage to reinvent his business in a more ethical and sustainable way. A single mother, faced with a grim diagnosis, found the strength to create a support group that now welcomes dozens of women in similar situations. These are testimonies that strength in tribulation is not an isolated feat of human character, but a partnership experienced behind the scenes of a spiritual journey. This message also leads us to reflect on the decisions that shape our path. When we embrace the invisible fortress, we begin to make choices guided not only by the search for immediate relief, but by the conviction that each step, however challenging, brings us closer to a more whole version of ourselves. It's as if each obstacle becomes a step on the ladder of inner transformation, an opportunity to solidify our faith and expand our spiritual horizons. True strength, therefore, is revealed in the ability to look back and recognize that each storm was, in fact, a portal for growth. There is a hidden truth in this experience. We don't always realize where this new energy that drives us forward comes from. It escapes rational explanations and lodges deep within us, like a spark that ignites a lasting fire of trust. This is the great mystery of the Medjugorje revelations. While many focus on physical apparitions, the most powerful messages unfold in the intimacy of the soul, behind the scenes of our innermost being. Fortitude, therefore, is not an attribute exclusive to a privileged few, but a reserve of strength available to all who accept the invitation to an inner encounter with Mary. But we also found that this experience has a profound collective impact. When an individual emerges stronger from a crisis, they not only carry their own victory but also inspire a network of people around them. Fraternal solidarity intensifies and transforms into an ecosystem of mutual support, where each act of courage echoes as a call for others to rise up. It is the invisible strength of the community that, stimulated by Mary's embrace, becomes a living testimony of love and hope. Expanding the reach of this message beyond the confines of Medjugorje. At the heart of this mystery lies the paradox that by recognizing our fragility, we become stronger. This logic runs counter to the common mindset that values the appearance of invincibility. In the spirituality of Medjugorje, we perceive that vulnerability, embraced with trust, becomes genuine strength, for it is in this vulnerability that reveals dependence on a presence that never fails. This insight redefines how we manage crises, how we make decisions, and how we nurture hope, creating a virtuous cycle of continuous renewal. And as this strength takes root, we discover that we are ready to face even greater challenges, for we develop a sensitivity to recognize the invisible, embrace even amidst the distractions of everyday life. Every future difficulty becomes illuminated by this reminder that there is a silent support, a maternal strength that accompanies us. This discovery becomes an essential part of our journey of transformation, an internal legacy we carry like a lit torch, ready to illuminate the path of those who still feel lost. Now I want to go even deeper into this subject. Comment: this makes sense to me now. I want to delve even deeper into this topic and bring to light the fifth unrevealed message of Medjugorje. The power of prayer and fasting as a spiritual shield. In a world that values immediate results and quick solutions, we tend to view spiritual sacrifice as something secondary, almost outdated. However, Mary reveals that these gestures are not empty rituals, but powerful weapons to protect our souls from the onslaught of doubt, discouragement, and the darkness that haunt our daily lives. When we understand this hidden truth, each act of fasting and each moment of prayer becomes strategies for internal transformation, capable of shaping our mindset and strengthening our resolve. Imagine facing a profound crisis, perhaps a feeling of emptiness that imposes itself like an insurmountable wall, or an inner conflict that erodes your peace. In these moments, prayer intercedes as a living bridge between our hearts and the maternal heart of Mary, echoing requests for grace, discernment, and protection. But Mary goes further. She invites us to combine this dialogue with God with a conscious fast in which we symbolically renounce something comforting, be it a usual meal, social media, or any pleasure that monopolizes our attention to create space for the inner voice. In this prelude of silence and surrender, we build an invisible shield that repels negative forces, as our focus shifts from the problem to the divine solution. Behind the scenes of this revelation, the Medjugorje visionaries experienced moments of profound clarity when they combined prayer and fasting. Marian recounted that, during a 5-day journey of fasting, combined with hours of silent contemplation, she felt a peace so impenetrable that no fear could touch it. It was as if, with each ounce of food she refused, her faith became lighter and firmer at the same time. This dynamic breaks the common logic of purely ascetic sacrifice and reveals a practical impact. Fasting, modified by the intention of protecting the mind and heart, generates a spiritual energy capable of illuminating decisions and dissolving doubts that previously seemed insurmountable. When we speak of transformation, it's important to recognize that the combination of prayer and fasting isn't meant to demonstrate merit or accumulate spiritual points, but to create a more intimate bond with the divine. It's in this strengthened bond that a courageous mindset emerges to face challenges as our vulnerable self finds support in a higher power. Each prayer, whether simple or prolonged, becomes a lever that raises our hope, while fasting acts as a filter that clarifies our thoughts and attunes us to the urgency of Mary's revelations. Decisions that seemed complex become clearer when we engage in this practice. Instead of reacting impulsively, we learn to pause, invoke the maternal presence, and seek guidance in a stillness of silence. This strategic pause, fueled by fasting, generates insights and perceptions that often escape an agitated mind. It's as if, by relinquishing something that ties us to the outside world, we gain access to a direct channel of inner wisdom, allowing the choices most aligned with our purpose to blossom naturally. The hidden truth of this teaching is that by strengthening our spiritual shield, we reduce the space for anxieties and fears that erode our vital energy. We enter a state of balance where the impact of each negative thought is minimized, as our attention is anchored in a concrete practice of faith. And make no mistake, this effect doesn't disappear as soon as we return to our routine. The discipline of fasting and the consistency of prayer build spiritual habits that permeate our days, gradually shaping an inner posture of vigilance and trust. In the accounts of those who participated in retreats guided by this principle, we find remarkable stories. A young doctor, overwhelmed by the stress of hospital emergencies, discovered that a daily hour of prayer, combined with a light fast, helped him maintain serenity in the face of critical cases. He described the sense of balance that made his heart beat with more compassion than tension. Another pilgrim, facing a difficult legal case, attributed fasting and prayer together to giving her the courage to speak the truth without fear and find unexpected strategies that changed the course of her cause. This learning also reflects a significant community impact. When a person incorporates this spiritual weapon, their family and friends notice a change in attitude, less irritation, more patience, fewer complaints, and more supportive initiatives. The fasting mentality extends to renouncing harmful behaviors, as gossip or criticism, and the prayer mentality strengthens a culture of gratitude and open dialogue. Thus, Medjugorje's revelation on prayer and fasting not only benefits the individual, but generates a multiplier effect that permeates the background of relationships and social environments. It's fascinating to consider how Mary presents this formula as an antidote to the modern epidemics of anxiety, depression, and spiritual apathy. Instead of relying solely on external therapies, we are invited to cultivate an inner practice that allows us to revisit the source of our being, redefining our priorities. By placing God at the center of our daily practices and using fasting as a shield, we establish a routine of active spirituality, capable of guiding us in every decision, whether large or small. The dynamic of prayer and fasting as a spiritual shield also calls us to a broader truth. Our journey does not end in isolated rituals, but is revealed in the transformation of our daily mindset. It is an invitation to live our faith organically, allowing the frequency of our choices to be modulated by an invisible affection that sustains us. Each voluntary renunciation and each sincere dialogue with the divine builds an inner architecture of protection, where emotional storms and external temptations lose their power to disrupt our peace. And it is at this point that we understand why this message has remained hidden for so long. In a culture that seeks shortcuts and immediate pleasures, the proposal of conscious fasting may seem counterintuitive, but it is precisely in this countercurrent that the key to a balanced and meaningful life lies. When we embrace this spiritual weapon, we unleash our potential for resilience and become true artisans of our own transformation, capable of withstanding any onslaught that threatens our soul. Now, I want to go even deeper into this subject. Comment: this makes sense to me now. I want to delve even deeper into this topic and bring to light the sixth unrevealed message of Medjugorje: fraternal solidarity. Mary's powerful call to care for one another, forming a network of love that reflects her own embrace. Consider how our culture often values individualism and personal achievement. discovering only too late that life's journey is made in communion. Mary, in the silence of her revelations, emphasizes that every act of kindness and every gesture of mutual support are not mere good intentions, but essential elements of a collective spiritual shield. When we unite in prayer, in service, in words of encouragement, and in silent empathy, we become channels of healing, building an invisible web that sustains hearts and restores hope in the darkest moments. Behind this message, moving testimonies emerge from communities that, upon accepting this call, experienced radical transformation. Families who gathered to pray alongside a sick member, strengthening not only the emotional bond but also generating an atmosphere of faith and trust that accelerated healing. Neighbors who discovered, in small, everyday actions, a basket of food discreetly left on the doorstep, a phone call of solidarity, an unexpected visit, the power to restore dignity and joy to those who felt forgotten. These stories reveal the real impact of fraternal solidarity. It not only reflects Mary's invisible embrace, but expands its reach, as each heart touched spreads this love further, without reservation. When we speak of transformation, this message invites us to rethink decisions and priorities. Instead of seeking success and recognition at any cost, we learn to value each other's generous presence. One business leader, by incorporating this dynamic of care, reported developing an organizational culture based on cooperation, where profits began to be measured not only in numbers, but in stories of impacted lives. A school that adopted regular practices of mutual support, attentive listening sessions, sharing circles, and solidarity drives transformed conflicts into opportunities for collective growth, awakening in students a sense of mission and social responsibility. It is in this synergy of hearts and actions that we see the true power of an invisible embrace that spreads beyond the walls of Medjugorje. As we delve into the behind the scenes of this revelation, we realize that fraternal solidarity is a force of unity capable of dissolving barriers of distrust, prejudice, and isolation. In times of uncertainty, when anxiety tends to confine us, the hidden truth of this message reveals itself as an antidote. By reaching out to others, we not only offer support, but also receive in return a vital energy of encouragement and belonging. This dynamic creates a virtuous cycle, where each gesture of empathy strengthens the community mentality, generates trust in shared decisions, and multiplies the impact of each small seed of love planted in arid soil. It's fascinating to consider how this quiet movement unfolds away from the spotlight. In discreet pilgrimages, small groups organize to visit orphanages, nursing homes, and hospitals, bringing comfort through songs, inspiring readings, and intercessory prayers. However, the true miracle happens when these actions return in the form of smiles and tears of gratitude, shaping a collective mindset of responsibility and care. It's as if each participant becomes a living, breathing space of revelation, where Mary's invisible embrace materializes into tangible experiences of love made real. When we allow fraternal solidarity to become part of our daily lives, we see that it directly influences our choices and priorities. Personal or professional projects gain new purpose when aligned with greater causes, and decisions previously made from the perspective of individual gain begin to reflect their impact on the common well-being. This new communal electricity generates a magnetic field of spiritual attraction, uniting people of different backgrounds around a shared ideal. The hidden truth of this message is that Mary's invisible embrace not only sustains us on our inner journey, but also calls us to build bridges of love that cross geographic and cultural boundaries. And as this network of solidarity expands, we discover that each of us plays a unique role in this mosaic of love. It doesn't matter how large or small our gestures are, a word of comfort, a listening ear, an anonymous donation, they are all part of the same eternal embrace that Mary desires to envelop the world. When we recognize our value as pieces of a divine orchestra, our mindset expands, and we begin to see each decision as a note capable of composing a symphony of compassion. The collective journey then becomes a school of love, where we learn the importance of walking side by side and the transformative power of a gesture of solidarity. Now, I want to go even deeper into this subject. Comment: I'm on this journey. To now, I want to delve even deeper into this subject and bring to light the seventh unrevealed message of Medjugorje, unshakable hope, that final promise that even in the darkest valley, Mary's invisible embrace renews confidence in a better tomorrow. Imagine yourself walking down a cobblestone road, under the cover of the most frightening night, when each step seems to lead you into an abyss of doubt. It was in this desperate setting that, according to the visionaries, Mary appeared not with fanciful promises, but with a guarantee so concrete that it shook the foundations of human fear. The certainty that, even when everything around seems to be crumbling, there is a future filled with light. Behind the scenes of these apparitions, the visions spoke of a dawn that would break after the longest darkness, using imagery that evoked both the renewal of nature and the resilience of the human heart. Jacob described a feeling of inner steadfastness, as if he were rooted to a solid rock. even though the waves of constant uncertainty tried to submerge him. This sense of security, despite the storm, reveals a hidden truth. Hope, when anchored in Mary's maternal affection, is neither fragile nor fleeting, but a force capable of sustaining any heart in moments of emotional collapse. This unshakable hope doesn't ignore pain or promise a path without obstacles. It transforms the way we see them. Instead of viewing each difficulty as an end, we learn to see it as a turning point in our journey of transformation. Each challenge responds to a different logic than despair, as we are invited to trust in a greater process, where our decisions are permeated by the conviction that there is good hidden behind adversity. It's an invitation to shift our mindset from "why is this happening to me?" to "where might this lead me?" When we allow this hope to travel with us, we notice its impact on our daily routine. Instead of waking up with our hearts heavy with the weight of uncertainty, we begin to cultivate an attitude of gratitude for the small gifts that present themselves. A ray of sunshine that shines through the curtain, an unexpected gesture of solidarity, a simple smile that brightens the soul. These details previously unnoticed take on new value, as they become signs that Mary's invisible embrace never rests, even when we are immersed in worries. The journey of keeping this flame of confidence alive involves conscious decisions, choosing words of encouragement when pessimism knocks on the door, choosing actions that reinforce belief in a promising future, such as sharing a message of hope with those suffering or dedicating an extra minute of prayer to renew strength. These small, seemingly simple choices add up and have a profound impact. They form a mosaic of revelations that remind us that we are part of a larger narrative, written by loving hands that guide us without fanfare. It's fascinating to see how the Medjugorje revelations, far from being inaccessible, mystical formulas, translate into practical, immediate action. In behind-the-scenes accounts, families facing serious conflicts discovered a new lease on life when they began to invoke this unshakable hope together. Companies experiencing breaches of trust redefined their management policies with an emphasis on common well-being, guided by the idea that an environment filled with hope breeds innovation and cohesion. It's as if every action reflects this invisible embrace, radiating transformation and renewal. The mindset that emerges from this message is that, even in moments when everything seems to conspire against our dreams, there is always a door ajar for a new beginning. This isn't blind faith, but a trust rooted in subjective evidence, those feelings of immediate relief, those sudden inspirations that arise when we allow ourselves to listen to Mary's silent voice, whispering that our story is not yet finished. These flashes of revelation drive us to continue, even when the weight of the past tries to tie us to the ground. The hidden truth of this message of hope reveals a powerful paradox. The more we recognize our own fragility, the more we are able to embrace the divine strength that sustains us. It's a counterproductive process in a culture that celebrates self-sufficiency at all costs. In Medjugorje, we learn that admitting our limitations doesn't make us lesser, but opens us to the life-giving breath that Mary offers. An energy capable of restoring dreams, reviving plans, and reigniting meteors of dormant joy. As we contemplate the collective impact of this promise, we see how communities transform when they embrace this mindset of trust. Social projects then become fueled by renewed faith, attracting volunteers who share the same spirit of hope and responsibility. Intercessory prayer movements take on a life of their own, becoming gatherings of celebration and mutual strengthening, where each participant returns to their routine with unexpected encouragement. This is proof that the great revolution of Medjugorje often takes place far from the spotlight, but radiates a warmth that never fades. And as this hope takes hold within us, we discover unprecedented clarity in choices previously made out of fear or insecurity are now motivated by the certainty that, even if we fail, we will not be alone. This confidence allows us to be more daring, to act with more authenticity, and to persevere when headwinds try to knock us down. Each step taken with this conviction becomes a silent testimony that Mary's invisible embrace is a real, palpable, and transformative force. Now I want to go even deeper into this subject. Comment: this makes sense to me now. I want to delve even deeper into this topic and help you understand, right now, how to welcome Mary's invisible embrace into your daily life. Imagine starting your day with a small gesture of presence. Before any email, notification, or appointment, take a moment to close your eyes and breathe deeply. In this brief silence, also quiet the mental traffic of worries and invite Mary into your heart, asking her to envelop your mind with tenderness and guide your thoughts throughout the hours to come. This simple prayer, even if it lasts only a few seconds, plants a seed of calm in the soul and prepares the ground for recognizing the subtle signs of maternal care. As you walk through the house, notice the light streaming through the window, the breath of air rustling the leaves outside, as if they were gentle touches on your spirit. Mary often manifests herself through these subtle signs: a gentle perfume, a sudden breeze, a ray of sunshine that seems to illuminate exactly when you need encouragement most. When you notice these details, pause consciously and give thanks with a simple thank you, Mother. thus training your heart to decode these small revelations that threaten to go unnoticed. When an emotional burden arises, that anxiety that tightens your chest before an important decision, or the anguish that hits at the end of an exhausting day propose, a gesture of redress to yourself, lightly touch your own hand to your heart, as if you were hugging yourself, and repeat in your mind, Mary, accept my pain and transform it into hope. This physical movement, combined with the intention of surrender, creates a link that activates your connection with the invisible embrace, reinforcing the idea that your vulnerability finds support in divine affection. In moments of doubt or uncertainty, try a brief variation of this practice. Instead of postponing your response or seeking external advice, choose a quiet place, a corner of the sofa, say a listening prayer, saying something like, Lady of Peace, speak to my heart. Pay attention to that insight that suddenly arises, without apparent logic, but that brings an inner light on which path to follow. These intuitions are clear signs that Mary is whispering guidance, offering a course of action that respects your freedom but illuminates your mind with wisdom that transcends common reasoning. Throughout the day, set aside short breaks for an exercise in implicit gratitude. Whenever something good happens, a kind gesture from a friend, a task successfully completed, a moment of laughter, or mentally recognize it as a reflection of the invisible embrace. Gratitude is a powerful mechanism for keeping the channel of perception open, because by appreciating each blessing, you refine your mindset to see the extraordinary in the ordinary. At night, before going to sleep, take a moment to make an act of intimate reparation. Think of an attitude you'd like to correct, perhaps a thoughtless word, a negative emotion you've allowed to linger, and formulate a short prayer, asking Mary to replace that mistake with a lesson in compassion. This gesture of self-honesty reinforces your commitment to walk alongside her, cultivating a journey of self-transformation based on truth and love. To further enhance this embrace, try jotting down in a notebook 3 small signs of maternal presence that you noticed during the day. It could be a comforting dream, a courageous thought, or a melody that touched your heart. Writing down these moments creates a record of personal revelations, acting as a backdrop of memories that confirms, over time, the consistency of this invisible embrace. Revisiting these notes in the following days strengthens your confidence and keeps the flame of hope alive. In contexts of collective decision-making at work, with family, or among friends, suggest beginning meetings with a brief moment of silence, directing thoughts to Mary so that her maternal spirit sustains the dynamic. This simple ritual, without any appearance of excessive formality, generates a more collaborative energy field, as people perceive, albeit subtly, the shift in mood from tension to openness, from conflict to a willingness to dialogue. Little by little, you will help make each environment a reflection of this protective embrace. When crises arise, and you know they will, remember to return to these exercises of presence, gesture, and journaling. They aren't magic bullets that eliminate challenges, but practical tools that reconfigure your mindset and expand your resilience. By recognizing that you don't have to face anything alone, you internalize the hidden truth of Medjugorje. Mary's presence is as close as the next inspiration that strikes your mind or the next sigh that wells in your chest, and it is thus, through small acts and daily revelations, that the invisible embrace manifests itself frequently and warmly. Each gesture of redress, each simple prayer, and each perceived sign are pieces of a living tapestry that you weave day after day. This process of internal construction gradually forms a solid foundation where faith is anchored, decisions are clarified, and the heart remains steadfast even in the face of storms. Now I want to go even deeper into this subject. Comment, I'm on this journey to now that you know these 7 messages, what will you do to live them in your daily life? Think about the transformative journey that began with inner healing, followed by the peace that renews the mind and heart, and the profound conversion that repositions God at the center of all your decisions, strengthening you in tribulations, covering you with prayer and fasting as a true shield, uniting you in fraternal solidarity, and filling you with unshakable hope even in the darkest hours. This journey doesn't have to end here. It can expand into a journey of continuous discovery, where each reflection sparks practical action, each insight reveals an invitation to a change of mindset, and each small decision becomes a decisive step toward fulfillment. Now imagine a space dedicated to deepening these experiences. A weekly gathering where you can share your revelations behind the scenes of everyday life. Draw on the collective strength of a prayer group and understand more clearly how each message of Medjugorje can unfold into concrete challenges and blessings. In this environment, we will have guided meditation moments to reinforce inner healing, conscious fasting workshops that demonstrate how this act of renunciation acts as a catalyst for transformation, and sharing sessions on fraternal solidarity, where each testimony becomes a thread in the living fabric of a community that chooses to walk together. If you prefer a more practical format, we're preparing a series of exclusive videos that will delve behind the scenes of each of these 7 messages, featuring innovative prayer exercises, tips for recognizing and cultivating signs of the invisible embrace, and interviews with people who have experienced everyday miracles in challenging circumstances. In these productions, we'll highlight the impact that a change in mindset has on seemingly trivial decisions, choosing a kind word, expressing gratitude in a tense moment, a willingness to listen before judging, and how these gestures nourish Mary's invisible affection in every aspect of your life. Perhaps you feel like this journey has already begun within you, with small epiphanies that lit a light in your soul. But there's much more to be discovered. How to keep the flame of hope alive when circumstances seem to conspire against your dreams. How to strengthen faith in moments of uncertainty and build an inner fortress that withstands the winds of doubt. How to transform fasting and prayer into bastions of confidence that shape your posture in the face of every challenge. All of this is part of a prolonged invitation to embrace in a practical and intentional way each message you've received so far. To take the next step, you can sign up for the online workshop we're organizing, where we'll delve deeper into each message through group dynamics, guided study, and community prayer. In it, we'll unravel the hidden components of each revelation, showing how to apply them to real-life situations, family conflicts, career choices, friendship dynamics, and even self-care. It will be a space to delve into the spiritual strategies Mary entrusted to us, learning how to use them as tools for personal and collective transformation. If you prefer an in-person immersion, we are establishing prayer circles in several cities, where you can experience firsthand the power of the invisible embrace alongside those who, like you, seek profound renewal. In these gatherings, in addition to sharing and guided prayers, we will have moments of silence for inner listening, practical, participatory fasting exercises, and reflections on the mindset of solidarity that reflects Mary's maternal love. Each circle will be a living framework of revelations, where the experience of some nourishes the hope of all. And so you can closely follow each stage of this journey. Be sure to check out our video series that unravels the nuances of each message. In each episode, you'll be guided by authentic accounts, analyses from spiritual experts, and practical exercises that facilitate the incorporation of the revelations into your daily life. These videos will serve as a manual for transformation, showing that the hidden truth of Medjugorje is not a distant mystery, but a life proposal accessible to anyone willing to open their heart. So, what should you choose? Participate in the workshop, join a prayer circle, or follow our video series? The decision, like all great choices, is born from the combination of conscious reflection and a leap of faith. Regardless of your preferred format, the important thing is not to let these messages remain merely theoretical. They were entrusted to create a real impact, a shift in mindset that reverberates in loving attitudes, an inner transformation that manifests in compassionate decisions, a journey of revelation that sustains your hope at every step. Now, as the next stage of this journey approaches, reflect. Which format most resonates with your current reality? How do you want to experience, in your own context, this invisible embrace that Mary extends to each of us? Regardless of your choice, know that we are here to walk alongside you, offering the tools and support necessary to make these 7 messages the pillars of a renewed life. Comment here, I'm on this journey too. If you've stuck with me this far, I want to thank you for every second of this journey of discovery and for the love you showed in following each word about Mary's invisible embrace. If this content touched your heart and brought that feeling of comfort that we only find in faith, please leave a like. It helps strengthen our bond and allows more people to discover this message of hope. And since you've reached the end, write in the comments, I'm with you until the end. I'd love to know that this story is also part of your journey. If you're not yet part of our community, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss our next meetings, because here we'll always have something new to help you live these 7 messages of Medjugorje in a practical and transformative way. And, to continue delving deeper, there's a video here that complements this very topic. Just click and follow me there, and the conversation continues in the same welcoming way. See you soon.